Hi, good afternoon po. Ayan.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Before we proceed with our speakers, let us first welcome our special guest. She is a pulmonary and ICU specialist trained in U.S., internal medicine specialist, graduate of UP College of Medicine, third congressman of Pampanga, psychologist by training, and author of the Psychology Board exam. Also awarded COVID Hero by TV5. Started FB Live, Dr. Anna York Bondok, free medical health information with free free FB Live videos of over 200 FB recorded live videos. And also Convenor, Young Doctors Career and Job Expo with 2,000 young doctors with a goal to provide support for the careers of younger doctors. Please welcome Dr. Anna York Bondo. Good morning. Good morning, Doc.
Hello po. Hi. Hi. Thank you so much. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Thank you, President Jana, for inviting me. It's my honor and pleasure na makasama po lahat ng delegates and also our sociology students from the Camarines Norte State University. And it's an honor for me to join you po dito po sa inyong international webinar on religious experiences amidst the pandemic and the role of faith in coping with COVID-19. Good afternoon po.
Magandang hapon po. Good afternoon, Dr. Bondo. So can you please explain to us more about COVID-19 and what are the risks of having this deadly virus po?
Opo. Thanks, President. And is it okay if I speak po in both English and Tagalog? Parang Taglish? Okay lang? Okay. So
Yes po.
COVID-19 po,
Yes, Doc.
it's a modern pandemic and marami po sa atin, we never thought po na in our lifetime makakaabot po tayo ng ganito. And the role po of very deadly diseases, we thought natapos na po nung panahon po ng mga magulang natin or ng mga lolo't lola natin when there were pandemics like the flu pandemic in 1918, yung naging ano po, TB was rampant po before the TB drugs were discovered. Yung ano po, polio was a very deadly disease po. So with the advent po of na immunization, vaccinations, a lot of us never thought that this day would come, that a pandemic would arrive po. So ano po ang COVID-19? COVID-19 po is the illness. The virus po is called the coronavirus. And ito po, it's a respiratory illness, but actually mainly respiratory. It's a virus po that attacks our respiratory system mainly, but there have been effects po throughout po the body from head to foot. It's normally known to be acute. In other words, mabilisan po yung dating, but there have been patients who have not recovered who have reached po a long period of time at ito po ang tinatawag na long COVID. So paano po? Let's start what's the ano po epidemiology. Well, in the Philippines po we're over 400,000 infected na po. Our death rate is pretty good. It's according to international standards po. We are a large country of almost 100 million, emerging from one major surge po, which was in ito pong March and April, and we almost had a second wave. Luckily, parang naputol po, and we are right now po just maintaining po and hoping to bring down po our COVID numbers. So, paano po tayo nagkaka-COVID? As we all know po, and it's already nabalitaan na po, no? COVID is airborne. What is the meaning of this? Majority po ng ating infections are coming po from inhaled particles po of the virus. Previous to this, the few months back po, we were having a lot of concern po about surfaces, touching, alcohol. Meron pang issue po about doorknobs, elevators, Lazada packages, ball pens, ganun po. But further studies have shown po that even though we can get, COVID can survive on surfaces, majority po talaga ng napag-aralan na COVID, nalalanghap po talaga ng tao. Of course, washing your hands po and using alcohol will stop you po from touching your face or your mouth. But primarily po, it is inhaled. Okay, so people always ask me, Mom, what's the meaning of airborne? Ang meaning po noon, nasa hangin na po. So ang dami ho nagpapanik when they hear, oh my God, nasa hangin na po, and anytime, anywhere, malalangkap po natin. But I wanted to share with you po, the latest studies show that COVID po, even though nasa hangin po siya, let's say somebody coughed, majority po talaga of the particles they are heavy. So mahuhulog po siya. It's like from your mouth, parang umaarak ko po siyang pababa. Okay? So most of the viruses really cannot travel more than 6 feet. Yun po yung reason for the social distancing na 6 feet distance. But again, it has been shown that people farther than 6 feet away have been infected. So paano po yun? In other words, COVID particles are also known po to float in the air as small airborne particles. Okay. So, paano po yun? What's the reason for that and what should we do? Majority of the particles are large and they fall, but there are some that are small and that they float. So, the reason po that we wear masks or the reason po prescribed po yung masks, and it's very important to wear a mask, pag yung umubo po, may mask, mababawasan po yung lumalabas na particles because of the way the masks are made, layers po yan, they stop most of the bigger particles from coming out. And then, the smaller ones po na lumalabas, social distancing will take care of most of that. And kayo rin po, if you're wearing your own barrier mask, kahit papano po, there will be an additional barrier. So because COVID po is now considered airborne, very important po ang social distancing, as I mentioned, masks, and the third issue po is ventilation. That is very important. Ano po meaning ng ventilation? Maganda po yung circulation po ng hangin. So, before po, we used to hold most of our events indoors. Ang ganda po, no? Offices na may aircon, high-rises na sarado po, and it's all temperature controlled. In this day and age po, the effects of ventilation and getting COVID are very, very important. At saka po, kailangan may knowledge talaga tayo ng ventilation. Electric fan, bukas po yung bintana, bukas po yung um, pintuan so that air can circulate and recirculate in a certain place. So halimbawa po, what do I mean by that? First of all, outdoors is better than indoors. Opening the windows is better than closed. And kung pwede po, wag na pong mag-electric fan, wag na pong mag-aircon, and it's better to use an electric fan. So what's the meaning, practical meaning po of ventilation? Let's say somebody po has COVID. That person is working with you, say in an office. Dalawa po kayo nakamask, okay? Yung hinanga na lang po ng tao, pwede pong nakakahawa yun. But if he is wearing a mask and you are wearing a mask, so reduce na po yun, ano? Ngayon po, kung maganda pa rin ho yung ventilation ng inyong lugar, kung ano man ho yung hininga ng taong may sakit, it is immediately brought, it will not linger. Hindi po siya magtatagal po sa loob ng isang kwarto para lang hapin po nung katabi niya. So, let's say po, I could compare it po, no? Alam niyo po yung umihi sa dagat. Pag umihi po tayo sa dagat, sa laki po ng dagat, hindi na po natin makikita yung ihi. That the same principle po for COVID. Kung meron pong umubo na may COVID, sa laki po ng ating hangin, and if it's circulating pa po, right, left, over and around, hindi po talaga pupunta sa inyo yon. So those are the facts of COVID today. COVID is circulating in the Philippines. It is growing, but growing slowly, and hopefully po, it will go even slower and maybe even become zero to a certain point. Pero talagang malaganap na po siya talaga sa Pilipinas. Number 3 point po is that COVID is primarily po an inhaled and a respiratory virus. Though COVID can affect other parts of the body po, it's primarily in the lungs. And the way that we get infected po from COVID, even though there are services, meron pong kwento na Lazada lang hinahawakan, ganun po. About food, ganun po. The primary way that we can get COVID today that we already know po is through respiratory droplets and aerosols. So yun po yun. Activities that generate aerosols like singing, matindi po yung singing. If you have a choir there in the Camarines Norte State College, please huwag kong magtabi-tabi. Talking po forcefully. When you exercise po, talagang malakas ang hininga nyo po. Just regular talking po, coughing, sneezing. And that is why we do social distancing. We wear masks po. And we always po prefer to be outdoors or in a well-ventilated indoor area. So yun po, President Jana.
Yes, thank you very much po for that answer. So, next po is after a patient recovers from COVID-19, does this still affects the patient po, or does it still affects or harm the patient po?
Ganito po yun, to all of us listening, ano po, can I elaborate a little on the testing, Ma'am Jana, para ma-understand po ng mga tao? Okay. So, kung kayo po, na-infect po ng
Yes po.
COVID,
Yes po, Doc.
most po will recover from day 9 to day 14. In the United States po at sa UK, after 10 days po, a person is already, like mild COVID lang po, no? Hindi naman po kayo nadala sa ospital. You're just recovering there in your home, quarantined. By day 10 po, it is really shown to be quite safe. Hindi na po kayo nagkakalat ng virus. Okay? No fever for 3 days. 10 days after the symptoms, you are already okay. In the Philippines po, we extend our quarantine period to 14 days. So after 14 days po, sa ibang bansa nga po 10 lang eh. In the Philippines, after 14 days po, you can leave your quarantine facility. There is no need po for a second swab as long as you feel well, you feel okay. Magpahinga na lang ng konti, you can go back to work. Huwag po kayong mag-alala, wala po kayong mahahawaan. There are a few individuals po who remain parang wala na ho silang COVID but they still don't feel 100%. Some of them may have lingering symptoms. This is what we call long COVID. Pero majority pa rin po sa kanila ay hindi na rin po nakakahawa. But again, if you think po on day 14 or day 10, you're gonna go back to the way you felt before, sometimes po, it depends on your age, on your other illnesses po, on your general condition po, malakas po ba katawan nyo before you got sick, it can take a while po for you to get back to your normal activities. But in general po, in the US and UK, 10 days is okay. In the Philippines po, 14 days even better. So, hindi na po kayo nakakahawa and no need for a second swab. Okay? So, yun lang.
Okay. So, other than lung infections and respiratory problems, what are the other signs that we can see to a COVID-19 positive patient?
Yung signs and symptoms po ng COVID-19, I'll just go through the classic po, no? Then I'll go into some others. Yung classic signs and symptoms po ng COVID-19 for everyone to know, ano? You know it already, but I will just repeat po, no? Fever po na nagpe-persist. What is fever? It's higher po. Traditionally po sa ospital, fever is 38.5. Pero anything above 38 and lingering po nagtatagal, you should be concerned. Number two po, some people po, fatigue. Anong fatigue? Yung pang talagang wala ka namang ginawa, parang sobrang hapong-hapo, sobrang pagod na pagod. Some people have a difficulty of getting out of bed. Yung ganun ho sila kapagod. Number three po, loss of appetite. Mga nawala na po ng ganang kumain. This is also accompanied po by loss of sense of smell and loss of taste. Ano po ang meaning nun? Halos hindi nyo po malanghap. Halimbawa, kape, no? Ang lakas ng amoy ng kape, you cannot smell it. And then you also cannot taste po kahit matamis, maanghang, wala po. It's very flat. Opo. And of course, sometimes po, sipon, ubo, kasama po yan. So those are the classic signs and symptoms po of COVID. But again, as I mentioned po before, ang dami pong presentation ng COVID, but yun po yung most classic. Meron po, masakit lang po ang ulo. Meron po talagang sore throat, itchy throat po. And then some children po, some people present with strokes. Some people po nagkakaroon po ng upset stomach, nagtatae, nagsusuka. So there can be a variety po of presentations, but I gave you po the most classic. It's pulmonary in nature. Respiratory sa baga po.
Okay. So, what are the advices that you can give to all of our viewers to prevent having this virus, Doc?
Opo. Bilang ano po, doktor sa baga, I'm also po the wife of a mayor, nanay din po ako, no? And then, I also have yung biyenan ko po na older. Siyempre po, yun po ay nasa vulnerable population. First of all, puntahan po natin what's the vulnerable population. Yun po yung seniors who are age 60 and above. And yun pong mga tao po with chronic illnesses na pwede pong makababa ng kanilang depensa. That includes people po who are taking po drugs para bumaba po yung kanilang immune system. Pwede pong transplant. That includes po people on dialysis, people with uncontrolled diabetes, yung iba pong undergoing cancer chemotherapy. Yun po yung ating pong tinatawag pong vulnerable population. Ano po ang meaning nito? What's the meaning of vulnerable? Ang meaning po nito is when these people po would get COVID, yung possibility po na maging mas serious po yung kanilang COVID. Kasi po, COVID can be mild. Meron pong halos hindi nila alam na may COVID sila. It can be mild, sumakit lang ang ulo, inubo ng ilang araw. But proceeding po along a spectrum, pwede po siyang to the point of na ICU at namatay. So, why is this considered vulnerable? Kung kayo po ay nasa may edad na po, the possibility of you're getting a serious infection ay mas mataas po. Okay? So, it is advised po, sana, my advice to everyone, how not to get COVID, number one, follow the government. Huwag pong pasaway. Okay? Kung kayo po ay vulnerable, hanggat maaari po, no, I cannot say naman ho na ikulong niyo yung sarili niyo sa bahay kasi may mental health din naman po, no? Pero yung sa rationable lang po, just go out if you need to go out. Like going to the doctor. Yun po. And of course, pag lalabas po kayo, to wear a mask and to wear a face shield. And always wash your hands po. At saka po alcohol para hindi po mahawakan ng muka at hindi po pumunta ang COVID sa atin pong lalamunan. So, my advice to everyone, follow the government po. Do not panic. No need naman po na ikulong yung sarili nyo for every minute of every day. Hindi po tayo, kasi magtatagal po ito eh. We cannot stay indoors forever. We have to work. But the most important po, again, ulitin ko lang President, social distancing, mask po, face shield, and forever po washing your hands and using alcohol. About the mask po, no, a few words of caution lang po. Maraming Pilipino po talagang sumusunod naman. Opo. Napansin po ng mga mag-aaral, mga scientifico, and you guys are sociologists, okay? So pag-isipan niyo po ito. The Filipino po is a very social animal. Ano pong meaning nito? Mahilig po tayo to get together, to eat together. Yun po yung naging very vulnerable point po talaga na nakita po. There have been studies in various hospitals kasi may mga nurse na nagkasakit. And so they were wondering, kulang ho ba yung mga PPE nila? Are they following the wrong procedures? Ano ba ginagawa ng mga nurses na to? A lot of studies to our sociology majors listening today, a lot of the studies have shown actually that people were infected po, lalo na Filipinos, while they were eating together. So, talagang eating together is a big issue po. Lalo na po sa katrabaho. Sa bahay po, you can eat together. What can we do? Pamilya nyo yan eh. But sa mga katrabaho po, no, if you can eat separately from one another, better. Kung pwede pong magkalayo kayo ng konti, better. Kung pwede pong wag magtapatan ng mga upuan, better. Kung pwede pong kumain po sa labas ng building nyo, the best. Yun lang po.
So as a medical health worker po, how did you use your faith or to make your faith more stronger amidst pandemic? Alam naman po natin na ngayong pandemic is marami tayong pagsubok na kinakaharap. Hindi lang po, wala pong pinipiling katayuan ang pandemya na naapektuhan. Hindi lang mayayaman, hindi lang mahihirap, lahat po tayo ay lubos na naapektuhan ng pandemic. As a medical health worker po, how did faith help you to fight this pandemic?
Sa inyo po, you are a sociologist, so you know this. We all, throughout the world po, hindi lang sa Pilipinas, all of us po experience the pandemic in different ways. Okay? Lahat po tayo, we were tested. And tama po rin naman ho yung sinabi nyo na all income levels, all ages, and naapektuhan po. No? I agree with that statement. But I would like to also add to our sociology majors po that ano po yung ating income level also determine po how we would experience the pandemic. And how could I say this? Ano po? Let's say po, and nangyari po ito sa totoong buhay po, no? Nagka-pandemya po, no? Everyone was locked down in the house. And yung mga may kaya po, they can call up Lazada and order. O pwede pong palabasin si driver, mamalengke ka, or yung inyo pong kasambahay. Kaya yung mga nakikipagtrabaho lang po, they have no choice. Binibigyan naman po sila ng mask, ano po, but they are the ones who have to go out. So, yung risk na inaako po nila is higher. Number two po, we can also see this po in the way we go to work. The boss po can stay at home, but the security guard po has to be there. Meron pong kukuha ng atin pong health declaration. Meron din pong kukuha ng ating temperature dito. So, the income level po of also determine the way that we experience the pandemic. Okay? Totoo po yun. Yes, we're all locked in our house, but if you have money, then at least po, meron kayong internet connectivity. Yung iba po, nahirapan talaga, no? So how did faith play a role in this? Malaki po, no? I would say po that definitely it led us to question each and every one of us. It led us to question yung buhay po natin. Para siyang parang hinarap po natin lahat yung ating mortality on that day or on that during that time. It also gave us a sense of what is important po in our life. Diba, ang dami-dami nating iniisip pre-pandemic, yung mga damit natin, yung susuotin natin, yung ginagawa po natin. Parang back to basics po talaga tayo eh. So we were able to assess what is important to us, what are our needs and what are our wants. What is important to us at alimbawa parang 'di ba pag nagigiba na po yung mundo, ano itatakbo mo? Yun po yung nasagot natin sa araw na 'to eh. And I think po our faith, a lot of us found our faith parang na-realize po natin na it's one of the foundations po of the Filipino culture. Para po, sa akin po tumibay po yung pagtitiwala ko sa Panginoon. I realize po that there's a lot of things that we cannot control in this life. There's only so much po that we can do for ourselves, for our families, for our jobs, for each other. And faith, the rest is up to God. Pero ako po naniniwala rin, no? Um, ano po, sabi nga po nila God helps those who help themselves. Sa Diyos ang awa, sa tao ang gawa. So yes, definitely faith played a big role, but I think that coming together din po as a society, we realize na hindi po tayo nabubuhay by ourselves. Our actions affect others. And as a society po, we need to, yung cohesiveness po natin, following authority, trusting authority po, became a big factor po dito po sa paglaban po natin sa pandemya.
Yes po. That is such a wonderful message and answer to this question. And any last message that you can give to all of our viewers watching now, Doctora?
Okay. Thanks, President Jana. My last message po for everyone, bilang doktor po, and also as a social scientist po, no? People ask me, Doktora, kailan po matatapos yung pandemya? Is there no end to this? I would like to give a beacon of hope to everyone. Meron na pong mga bakuna, they are being developed. There's already 3. Yung iba po, they're already getting the emergency, the emergency FDA approval po sa US. People ask me, kailan darating yung bakuna sa Pilipinas? Well, that we don't know because we're not a first world country po, and in the hierarchy of countries, I do not see the Philippines being the first. So ano po ang solusyon natin while we're waiting for the vaccine? Our solution po is to work together as a country, as a community, as a school sa inyo po, as an organization, in your barangay, and as a family. Kailangan po magtulungan tayo. Let us realize na our actions are not for ourselves alone, but our actions affect each and every person po that we interact with. Kung maging irresponsible tayo, meron pong masasaktan. But again, with regard to this pandemic, I think we found out what is important in our lives. A lot of us were able to move forward po. Yung iba naman po suffered anxiety, depression, and that's so common po during this time. It's practically normal. So my advice po, there is hope. My advice po, let's work together and laban Pilipinas. Okay?
Thank you very much, Dr. Bondok, for this opportunity to have a talk with you. This talk gives us a lot, more than a lot we expected, Doktora. Hindi lang po about sa COVID-19 ang aming natutunan, bagkus your personal experiences and how you perceive this pandemic po, how you see it in a good way po, Doktora. Thank you very much for this time and opportunity.
Salamat po sa inyong lahat, to the sociology majors po of the Camarines Norte State University. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Sa lahat po ng ibang nakikinig, magandang hapon po.
Maraming salamat
Thanks.
po, Doktora.